More.
Yeah, way more. Hey,
I
good
took a
morning.
job as a door dasher. I'm sorry. I had a few extra double dashes this morning, and they just got me late. It's all my fault.
No, it was a soccer camp. But hey, man, Rob Browne here
Soccer
with
camp,
you
yes,
on this
actually.
Wednesday morning, June 5th. Okay. Hey, man, happy birthday, Kirby. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Great day ahead of us. Got a great show lineup. Going to start the show off with Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch them, man. That's a great show. Monday nights at 6 p.m. Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis and Super Talk Mississippi. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. Vince Farrar, the sports animal up in Knoxville. Hey, smash subscribe button, bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on Android and iPhone. Get pen and paper handy. Subscribe, follow us, tell your friends about SEC Sidelines Sports Network. Here we come. Going to be a great one.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. Look, let me start off by saying something. When we talked a lot yesterday with Chris Lee about these SEC baseball coaches, Tim Corbin in particular at Vanderbilt, just got a text from one of our viewers, a good friend, man, and he definitely knows what he's talking about. It's a private university, but he said Corbin makes $2.5 million a year as the baseball coach at Vanderbilt. I will go on the limb here and say that's more than any other coach in the SEC in baseball.
Wow.
And that is more than a lot of football coaches make, especially at the group of 5, group of 6 level and what have you. So look, Brenden, that was so much fun last night on the Buddy Martin Show with David Whitley, Lauren Meadows, and your father, Buddy. Wow, we talked a lot. And what's going on in college, and Yancey's going to be on here in just a moment. I just talked to him. The women are getting people fired up. The way these women, the girls in softball, the passion. I mean, they love their team, their teammates, their sport, their school, and it's not all about NIL. I'm telling you right now, folks, you will get out of life what you accept. If you want to read about all the negative and the stuff you don't like, and you fill your brain with that, that's what you'll be. Okay? We'll work through that stuff. That's what the free market does. But damn, there's some great stories out there. And you can start with Caitlin Clark, what she's doing. People love people, and they love people that are successful, especially when they love what they do and their teammates. And I'm saying another thing about the women athletes. When it comes to signing autographs, I mean, it's just in their blood. You know, they're moms. They're going to be moms one day. They go to those kids and sign them all day. Give them credit, man. Double thumbs up.
I think you have to. I think you have to also look at really the facts that women will see this as an opportunity to seize the day to prove that women's sports is just as exciting as men's sports.
Yeah.
And I think they have, the groundswell, grassroots, whatever you want to call it, but we saw it happening in basketball, obviously this year in the SEC, and we're seeing it now carry over to softball and many other things. Buddy's very passionate about the softball Gator softball team, and he gets wrapped up in all that stuff, and I think everybody does. But I really do feel like that there has been capitalization or whatever you want to say, that the women have found a way to capture the hearts and minds of those of us pure sports fans.
Yeah,
because they're not as wrapped up in the other thing, but they also see the opportunity for them to make money at this level where they've been able to do that in the past. So this, when you have something to work for, it's a little bit I think that's where it's a little different, and I think in the male and female version of NIL. Nope, can't hear you, Rob. Did you knock your mic? You're muted, Rob Browne. Can't hear you, Rob. Mr. Rob Browne. Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I hit the mute button.
You were like talking away.
Yeah, but I've got my daughter's, golly, every few hours I get pictures of her with her son. That's what's happening in sports. Watch out, men. You better not walk by a bunch of kids outside the locker room after a game and blow them off, because you've got $100,000 in your checking account for right now before you blow it, probably. You better go to these kids. The reason I'm such a fan is, as a kid, we'd wait outside the locker room for a wristband or a headband from a Terry Beasley, a Pat Sullivan, Mickey Zofko. Later on, in high school,
I was just waiting for a Coke.
James Brooks, Joe Cribbs, William Andrews.
I was waiting for someone to throw me your jersey and for a Coke and a smile.
Yeah, I remember I was senior in high school. Commercial? Yeah, Mean Joe Green. Yeah. Well, but I remember in Pat Dye's first game, my friend Ray was down on the sidelines, photography pass, and he got one of Ron O'Neal, number 44's tearaway jerseys, and also got one of Lionel James. Back in, that was when you had tearaway, and we played. Of course, it didn't take long for those. So I pinned them up on my wall in my man cave when I was a kid, and I had those jerseys up there. And what we would do, we buy those Athlon's football magazines.
Yeah,
all those color pictures. That was the wallpaper from bottom to top, and the ceilings in my man cave of the SEC. I mean, we knew these players. We knew who they were, heights and weights, hometowns. Let's get back to that. Let's talk about college football. And Yancey's one of the more passionate people that I know when it comes to covering his school. In spite, look, Ole Miss has had some ups and downs. What program hasn't? Look at Florida. Look at Auburn right now. Look at Arkansas. Mississippi State goes from winning 9 games to last year winning 4. The thing about college is, and in the pros, there's loyalty too. But we're going to talk just about college. It's your family. You don't walk out on your family. You get closer to them, and you've got so many emotional ties and attachments to your school. You can't put a price tag on it, Brenden. But when you get a group of people together, it's like one of those. The Grand Ole Opry, it's got Minnie Pearl and Roy Acuff up on the stage. And,
sure.
My dad was there one time when Minnie Pearl was there, Roy Acuff, Little Jimmy Dickens, Jim Reeves, Eddie Arnold, all these great singers. But when Hank Williams came out, this is in 50 or 51, when he came out on that stage, he said half the people in the Grand Ole Opry didn't have on shoes. And no kidding, a lot of overalls and straw hats and drinking out of mason jars. He said it was the wildest thing he'd ever seen. But that's what it's like when you get these fans of these different SEC schools together on this show. What we do, these round tables, we'll get a Yancey Porter, and then we'll get Dudley Dawson, then we get Vince Ferrara going. Yeah.
And I'll get around all of the SEC and try to get a little bit of taste of everything and especially closer to our neck of the woods. But when you look at every morning I go on SEC Network, I'm on all over these things all the time, and when you look at the landing page, obviously for when you go to secnetwork.com or whatever it is, the banner picture is. The headline of Florida dropping the extra innings and the heartbreaker to Oklahoma, and they're talking about Florida softball, which was just such an emotional thing. And then the first 5 articles after that are all women's sports, and Yancey Porter checks in, and then under that's men's baseball. So we're seeing not just NIL, transfer portal, all this kind of stuff, but we are seeing, and I just referred to the transfer portal as Yancey Porter. So it was the transfer porter. Because I was bringing Yancey Porter in while I was saying transfer portal. There you go. Say that 10 times before. But Yancey, we're just talking about just female athletics capturing the hearts and the minds of all of us here in this time of year, which we're usually talking about men's baseball. We're talking about women's softball.
Well, before we do that, it was something we need to start doing, Brenden, and I need you to start you can pop it up on your end, but I'm going to do this for Yancey. Yancey, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
This always puts me in copyright infringement. Him and his things with this. Copyright. This is the non-copyright script music.
I love it, man. I mean, Yancey. Look, Yancey had an incident in the interest of public disclosure. Cell phone slipped out of his hands and fell into the porcelain chamber, the toilet. Hey, look, if you can't be on the show, you got to tell why. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Just another beautiful day.
Yeah, it is. Yancey, I'm telling you, I'm in Memphis. Brendan's in Ocala, and everywhere in between, north, south, east, and west, it is the SEC footprint. You can't get away from it. This talk about college football.
Yeah.
Every day we get closer. Of course, I get the reminder. I'm sure you do too. Today, it is 87 days away from the start of college football season. There'll be some games earlier on those Thursday or Friday night games, but let's get the report from Oxford. I saw yesterday on the Paul Feinbaum show. It was pretty cool. Max Chadwick of Pro Football Focus ranked the quarterback rooms in college football.
Yeah.
Georgia, number 1. Oregon, number 2. 3, Texas. 4, Ohio State. 5, Alabama. 6, Ole Miss. First down, Ole Miss. Let's talk about that quarterback room and the latest in the transfer portal.
The transfer porter.
Yes, that's
That's a new thing.
I try not to be a homer at all. I like to keep it real with the Rebels, and I tell the good with the bad. But
Yeah.
anybody that puts Ole Miss number 6 in the quarterback room is they need to do a little bit more study and investigate. When you've got Walker Howard and Simmons and Dart in that room, that's if not arguably the best, because look, Georgia's, I was really, really impressed with how much better he got throughout the year last year. I don't think it really got talked about enough. As starting quarterbacks, I would go Georgia 1, Ole Miss 2. And then you look at Texas, with the 1-2 punch that they have with Eli. Excuse me, see, I'm already saying Eli.
Arch.
With the arch.
Yep.
As the number 2 guy, that's really salty, and I can make a case for that. Ohio State, they've got talent galore, but I don't think people really realize how special the backups are at Ole Miss. I think Dart will end up being a first round selection, as several of these other quarterbacks will be that maybe are ahead. Alabama, I have no clue how in the world you put Alabama ahead of Ole Miss there in the quarterback room. That doesn't even make any sense. It's look, Lane Kiffin is always going to have a stacked quarterback room. I mean, it's just like Steve Spurrier was. There's certain coaches that attract certain players at certain positions, and Lane Kiffin is always going to be stacked at quarterback.
He is. And okay, last year.
And one other thing, we thought that maybe Simmons was going to have Tommy Johns. He came out of the Gosh, I'm trying to remember what baseball game it was, but it was, maybe 2 months ago. He came out, arm pain, and when you come out like that, and you're feeling or elbow shoulder pain, it's 9 out of 10 now, right? It's the old UCL, and everybody was devastated because this kid can really throw the ball, not only baseball but for football too, right? And they got extremely good news. It was just a sprain in the shoulder joint, and he's out there throwing. So what they thought at first he was going to be lost for the season for football as well. He's out there, and he's throwing it and feels great. So I think that was really big as well, because it's going to be a huge battle between him and Walker Howard. This all season once Dart graduates, or not graduates, but goes to the draft early.
Yeah, and is he 20 yet?
No, no, Simmons.
No,
He's
no, Jackson Dart.
Oh, Dart. No, yeah. Dart is, yeah. He's 20. He's 20.
Okay.
He's, both him and Simmons are extremely young. Simmons started off as a 17-year-old freshman. He graduated actually 2 years early, and but he was one of those that was held back. So technically, he was 1 year early.
All right. Got a question for you.
Yeah,
What happened to Spencer Sanders? I know he got some NIL money last year. Did he stay?
yeah.
Did he stay for a
He's in.
semester?
He's in. I think. Yeah, he collected a couple $100,000 and stayed for a few months and went on to the draft. Now, I think if I look, you kind of, I want to say he's with the Kansas City Chiefs, uh,
Wow.
but yeah, he's off to the NFL. I think he was like a ninth year senior, so he doesn't have any eligibility left.
Well, I put a jokingly out on social media one time a video of the defensive lineman Jefferson from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I said, has anyone seen this guy play? They say if he could be a 6-star, he would. Where's he leaning? Any help? Question. Man, I tell you. So that goes back to something somebody wrote in the Montgomery Advertiser one time about this kid on it was on National Signing Day years ago. He said his name was Muhammad. First name was Muhammad. This was the name that is, and he was 6'6", 295 pounds, runs a 4.65 40, benches 500 pounds, has a 53-inch vertical jump, all this stuff. And you read it and you read it and you read it and said, sources say he's leaning here. And then it comes back and says, just kidding. But see, that's what can happen. I mean, people can get wound up. And Dudley, we're running a little bit late today. We had Brenden got caught in a traffic jam. So, but Dudley, we've got Yancey Porter on here from the transfer porter. That's what I'm calling it now. It's going to stick, Yancey, the transfer porter. But I was on Buddy Martin's show last night, guys, and Yancey, I told him we're talking about Ole Miss, and I said Yancey Porter says they've got 12 defensive linemen they can trust. Okay. The football magazines are out. I mean, here's Lindy's right here, and I've got, Football Time, and Tennessee is another one. I saw Athlon's national preview last night. I like the version with all the big color pictures, so I got to go find that at the bookstore today. But, Yancey, when you got 12 defensive linemen that you can trust, you must have a hell of a defensive line coach. Talk about who that guy is and his background and his track record. Because that's powerful stuff.
Yeah, Randall Joyner, maybe arguably the most important assistant in my eyes on that staff. Now, obviously, their defensive coordinator, Pete, I don't put him in that category because he's a coordinator, but Randall he's played for SMU. He was at Ohio State for a number of years. And, they picked him up about 4 years ago after Lane's first year, and an unbelievable recruiter. Last year out of the high school class, Ole Miss is so much known for the portal classes, but they signed six really, really good defensive linemen, four out of the state of Mississippi, and They've got a batch, that'll be kind of tutoring underneath this veteran defensive line they're bringing back next year, and a great technician. Really, really, he's kind of the heart and soul right now. Derek Nix, who been at Ole Miss for so many years under so many coaches, is now over there at Auburn, as you know, Rob, and
Yeah.
and Joyner's kind of taken that throne, and he's his wife. She's into the football program as much as any wife I've ever seen. She's a rah rah girl, unbelievable
Yeah.
lady, and everybody just loves him. He's a player's coach, and look, as you know, and we talk about each year, Lane is known for offense, known for quarterbacks, known for putting up yards, but he values that defensive line probably more than any position outside of quarterback on the team. He's always going to have a stacked D line.
Well, and that's a big deal. I was talking earlier, and Yancey, Dudley, we started a little bit late this morning. Yancey's phone fell in the toilet, and but he
Yesterday.
yesterday, but he made a hell of a recovery. A lot of rice in a plastic bag. But let me say that what I see happening in the transfer portal is defensive linemen, man. If you can get them, you're in really good shape. And Dudley, jump in this conversation because I was talking earlier. This show's a lot like the Grand Ole Opry or Austin City Limits. My dad, that time he was there when little Jimmy Dickens came on stage. Roy Acuff was up there, of course. Minnie Pearl with the price tag on her hat. Jim Reeves, Eddie Arnold. But he said, man, when Hank Williams came out, people were it was like a Billy Graham tent revival, man. It was so powerful. People drinking out of mason jars. Now, we're not drinking out of mason jars yet, okay? It's too early in the morning. But, Dudley, all this talk about college football, I was reading a really good description. Philip Marshall and Auburn Undercover, Jason Caldwell and Justin Clemente and Nathan King. Two big games for Auburn this year. That September 21st matchup with Arkansas and then at Kentucky later. Talk about Arkansas. I like that description. It said they're going to be coming in playing. They got nothing to lose. They're going to try anything. Bobby Petrino coming in on a mission, as Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi said in Blues Brothers, on a mission from God. That's scary, and Yancey knows this. Lane Kiffin's back is against the – it's like playoff or bust. Make a case for Arkansas being a PITA for the teams they play this year, a PITA. You know what that stands for?
What I would say is that these guys up here, if they're saying they have nothing to lose, well, they have their jobs to lose. And,
You're correct, sir.
And what I would say is that they need to have a really good effort this year. Bringing back Bobby Petrino certainly has added to the narrative and the spice to things. When you were out at practice or when you were in the spring, you could see that there were lots more routes being run, lots more guys being open. I don't worry too much about the offense, especially because they've rebuilt the offensive line. That said, they would take half of your defensive linemen down there. And so they could have, they would probably need your 6 to get up to 12. But we'll see, how these new guys that they got in the portal come through. I've always said that if they're in the portal, there's a reason. And now I'm thinking that it's because of money.
Yeah.
Can't you blame them, Dudley?
Yeah, no, not at all. But I just think it's Arkansas, Kentucky, or to the Auburn. It's all going to be about how your new guys come in and play and how you adjust to new systems and situations, I guess.
Well, when you look around this, I saw one preseason All SEC team. It's so strange. You got Rocket Sanders from Rockledge, Florida, down at South Carolina now. You got KJ Jefferson from North Panola County, Sardis, 11.7 miles from Vaught Hemingway Stadium at the University of Central Florida.
That's a shame to me. Why? Look, I've known KJ since he's been in 7th, earlier in that, but why he didn't finish up at Arkansas. Dudley knows better than that. There have been
Yeah.
rumors he was going to transfer out for years before it even happened. But I mean, come on. I mean, that guy's an Arkansas legend. I don't know.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff just disappoints me.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you say, "What? Come on." And I
Yeah.
would tell KJ that in front of his face.
Yeah. Because he waited for that last check from Armor Bank. And so, Dudley, talk about that quarterback, 6'6" guy that's from Boise State. Not that many people know that much about him, Talon Green, but the more I'm reading about him, the more I start asking questions going, I mean, he's that big and he's that fast, but you know better than I or Dudley or Brenden.
Well, it's one of those things that Bobby Petrino kind of picked him out of the portal. He was his guy before any of us knew a lot about him, and got on him real quickly. Got him in here for a visit. He was supposed to go to several other places, but I think Bobby, knowing that at that point that obviously KJ was out the door, as you said, waiting for the last bit of business to be taken care of, to be able to acquire that check.
Yes.
It was one of those things that I think Coach Petrino just kind of handed him the keys. Not too long after that, Ja'Cory Criswell, who many people thought going into the offseason would probably be the starter, then transferred back to North Carolina. I guess it is. He's going North Carolina, Arkansas, North Carolina here in his travels. I think that it's one of those things that when you look at Talon, he is already a really good quarterback. He had a good year at Boise State, but in talking to him and talking to those around the program, they believe that that Talon's going to get the Bobby Petrino's going to get the best out of Talon, and Talon was the best fit for Coach Petrino.
Yeah. Well, we all know this, and Yancey, you think about what a coach like Lane Kiffin does to any quarterback that he mentors. That part right there, if you've got a good quarterback and you've got a good enough defense, you're going to be in most every game, Yancey Portal.
Yeah, I've got Arkansas family up in family that lives in Fayetteville's biggest diehard Arkansas fans there is. My great uncle Jim Bexley up there. We talk often about the Razorbacks. He could tell me what hat sizes those guys wears, and I think right now, I think they feel comfortable with what they're bringing there at quarterback, as Dudley just alluded to. I think Petrino's it's kind of like a seamless transition coming back. I think he's very comfortable around the area, and I think that it's going to be a big boost to that offense. I think, as Dudley alluded to, it's a defensive line, right? That's where they're really they've got some depth issues there. Retooling that offensive line from last year. There are a lot of young guys, as we talked about last year, that were starting on that offensive line. And, that's always what the Hogs hang their hat on, right? Are those big uglies up front. And so I think they can do nothing but get better there on the offensive line from what we saw last year. So, I think there's almost zero confidence amongst the fan base that things are going to work out this season, the feeling, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I really do. I think Sam Pittman, and I've said this from the beginning, he's a perfect fit for Arkansas. And, if that defensive line, if they can, I think the key to the season is just holding up. And, everybody has injuries, right? It's just who gets hurt and where they get hurt. They just really need to avoid injuries along that defensive front.
Yeah, and I would say that it's been a seamless transition. I agree with that with Coach Petrino coming back. He has been in like these sitcoms that they bring back and remake. He has been recasted as an offensive genius / grandpa instead of offensive genius / player. And I think that the focus being on football and him knowing that the chances are running out, that it is something that Football's always been important to him, but now it is an important way to finish your life the way you want to.
Yeah. Well, Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, joins us and got this Yancey Portal, Rebel Yell Hotline, DawsonHogville.net.
He's calling
Vince,
him Yankee Portal now.
yeah, Yancey Portal. That's his new name. But I picked this one up, Vince. Football time. That's out there.
Say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Yeah, football time in Tennessee. And I bought this at the Barnes and Noble's bookstore. You know, when you go in the bookstore, it's real quiet. And you get over there to the magazine section, and that's where all the activity is. People, these football magazines are out. People are excited. I mean, they are really excited. And, you know, Lindy's is out. Athlon's has their national preview out. Guys, we're all old enough to remember, man, that was like, you know, Christmas Day getting that bicycle or that new baseball glove or something. When it's written and it's printed, it just kind of puts things back in order somewhat. And Vince, I know, you know, unfortunately, Arkansas and Ole Miss not in the hunt to Omaha. Tennessee is. So let's talk some, you know, baseball with Tony Vitello and the baseballs, super regional. All they do is win, win, win. Golly, that's been used before.
That's all right. Yeah, they became just the fourth number one national seed to win all three of their regional games by 6 runs or more, and the 3 previous that did that went on to the College World Series, the last of which was Wake Forest last year. So no guarantees on that kind of stuff, but they were as convincing as anyone was at any of their regionals over the weekend. And I liked it from a fans and broadcaster standpoint that Tennessee got a chance to play all 3 teams in the regional. I always think that's cool. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
So it was impressive. Tennessee hit 12 more home runs, running their season total to a program record 159 home runs in a single season. That topped the mark from 2 years ago when the whole country was talking about all the home runs Tennessee was hitting. Tennessee hasn't quite been on the national radar because they're not the lightning rod this year that they were a couple of years ago. But it's almost been a little quieter that they topped that mark of 2 years ago with 159. They're one behind Alabama from 1997, second on the all-time SEC home run list. And they got a ways to go to catch LSU in that same year in 97. I think they were at 188. So you never know how long they keep playing. But this team has been unbelievable. Even when the top of the order isn't coming through with home runs, you get Curley and Stark and whoever's at DH. A lot of those guys at the bottom of the order coming through. It's a really dangerous, balanced team that really had excellent pitching once again in the regional. So they were impressive, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and guys, you start back. Ole Miss wins it all in 22. Mississippi State in 21. They're both out. LSU won it last year. They're already out. Yancey, what's the situation with Mike Bianco? What his plan is to try to get Ole Miss baseball back in that elite conversation?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. At Ole Miss and Mississippi State, it's just the passion for baseball is a little bit different than most schools. I mean, that's still all the talk. You go on the message boards and you got this top 5 football team, coming up with aspirations of a national title, and you'll see very few posts about football still going on right now, even though their season's been done for a couple weeks. All the talk is about baseball, and I call them the Bianco bashers, the ones that have been trying to chase Bianco out for it seems like a decade, and then you've got what they call the Bianco Bajaj, the guys that and girls that want Bianco back no matter what, and there's kind of a line in the sand, and that's what happens when you stay out of school for so long. Bianco's been there, I believe, 24 years.
Yeah.
We've seen the Van Horn there at Arkansas. I mean, the both of them, and there was a comparison of Van Horn and Bianco on the message boards, and I think Van Horn has been to 19 regionals at Arkansas. Bianco's been to 18. Van Horn's been to 9 supers at Arkansas. Bianco's been to
Jeez.
8. Van Horn and Bianco both had 5 national seeds. I think both have had, I believe it was 18 seasons of 38 or more wins, both of them through their tenures at Arkansas and Ole Miss, and you've got a portion of both fan bases that want to run them out on a rail, right? So it's it's a passionate fan base towards baseball. What Van Horn has done, that Bianco, is he's adapted to this new portal era. Ole Miss has not, and these last 2 years. The lowest SEC wins that Bianco had in his career in 22 years was 13 wins going in after the national championship, and then he only did that once. The next
Yeah.
lowest was 14, and he did that
Mm.
twice, and then he had a break even or winning seasons in every other year. So then they won six or eight games last year, and I believe 11 or 12 this year, and they've decided to give the staff another year. I think personally he deserves one more year. I think 2 years is too quick to just say, okay, you're done. But there's a lot of people that disagree with that. They wanted him out right now. So to me, they've got to increase that NIL fund twofolds at Ole Miss, as well as they've done in basketball and football with the portal, and giving them the tools, the necessary money to really attract the student athletes. In baseball, I think they thought they could just do it off of reputation and developmental under Bianco and his name and the facilities, and they spend close to $11 million in revenue for the baseball program. So that's tops in the country. So, they've got the tools financially in that aspect to run, a top flight baseball program. But, it's all about the NIL funds. And it's not competitive, especially with the LSUs and Tennessees of the world. And LSU's got a unique situation with Mariucci Bat. We all know that Mariucci, is the head trainer over there at LSU, and he started the bat company. And they're doing it the way that the NIL was meant to be at the beginning, where you're actually advertising for the companies. Tommy, their third baseman, signed a 10-year contract for 40,000 a year. That we can all count up. That's $400,000. And that was just at the beginning of the NIL. They've signed a pitcher for $1.2 million 2 years ago. That's more than the Ole Miss program is using for 40 players. So, I don't want to put all the blame on the lack of funds to get players, but it's certainly a big portion of it. Hopefully, they're going to increase that package to attack the portal this year, and it's really hurt them too with the high schools. They're signing these top five classes right now, the high school, but the two, three, four top guys are going in the draft. And if they can make the package more attractive to come to college, maybe those guys don't go in the draft. So
Yeah.
it has a ripple effect not only in the portal but your high school signings. I know at Arkansas, I believe they had 6 or 7 that went in the draft this past year. So I'm sure Van Horn would be nodding, yes, yes, Yancey, that's exactly right. It all comes down to the money in the portal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Arkansas, the best player in Arkansas high school baseball is kind of a given, Slade Caldwell, who from Valley View, who would be a great player for Ole Miss if he ended up there. He's going to be drafted really high, so he'll have a decision to make. But I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses either on the college level or the pro level. But he's going to make a dime or two along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Slade and my son played on the travel team together for a couple years there, and actually we played them. My son went to Magnolia Heights this past year, big baseball program, Mississippi, and we played his high school team twice this year. And he's a dynamic center fielder, a bona fide leadoff guy. Not the biggest guy, kind of 5'9" ish. but can absolutely fly and absolutely rake the baseball up. We'll see if he gets here. My son was tickling me. He was texting with him last night, and he goes, "Slade's coming, Slade's coming." And I was like, "Taylor, you remember now? I mean, you said the same thing about Cooper Pratt, who ended up going in the draft in the last second when the Brewers gave him 1.6 million over slotted money last year. Anything can change during that draft. And speaking of baseball and how much foresight that the NCAA has, did you know that they closed the portal before the draft? Can you imagine being a head coach or running your program and you're trying to figure out what your roster is going to look like next year, and you got to find out who goes in the draft, who does not, and the portal closes before the draft starts? Are you kidding me? I mean, the roster construction under those circumstances is absolutely insane, and that'll let you know what the NCAA thinks about baseball.
Vince, were you the one that said it last week about there was a player in the College World Series in baseball, and he was texting in the dugout during a game with the major league people? Somebody said that last week, Vince. That would really be crazy.
Yeah, I think I heard something about that, not into great detail. That wasn't me, but I remember hearing something about that. Look, they've pushed back the draft to try to make it better. I think the portal, though, that's new players entering it. I don't think it's not allowed to sign. So, or at least get commitments from guys. Guys can decide to go when they want, but I think you still have to close it. It's not perfect. There's no doubt about it. I would love for them. I did mention on the show a couple of weeks ago that there was some discussion to open up everybody on the roster in terms of scholarships for baseball. That would be very helpful for them. And not only, I think, maybe slowing down activity in the portal, but maybe having guys make college decisions as opposed to going straight to the pros, because now your NIL money that for some is offsetting partial scholarships, maybe that can just be extra money they're making. And I know for the profile of a lot of the baseball players, it's not guys that need the money or are doing it for the money. It's still player development, but it still would be extra incentive for them. And just whatever, at least they gave them the third assistant. It took them forever to do it, but at least
the third assistant.
Yeah. I'm not saying that offsets everything else. I'm not defending the NCAA. But they definitely owe college baseball an awful lot for the years of undervaluing it. Definitely, to your point.
Yeah,
man. Ron Polk battled the NCAA about the 11.7 forever and ever. I will be shocked if they ever bend over. Fact, now that there's going to be revenue sharing, as we all predicted, and Rob, I've been talking about this from the beginning with this whole NIL stuff. But that's not going to get rid of the NIL. You're going to have revenue sharing and the NIL, but they're going to be cutting fat now. I mean, look, I've heard from good sources inside the Ole Miss IPF. They are about to get rid of walk-ons in football, and they're talking about. Listen to this. They're talking about cutting the college football rosters from 85 to 55, and the players from 55 to 85 would be on the reserve roster, just like the NFL model. All of this is to save money from the colleges that paying the scholarships. So if they free up and now have 35, 40 open scholarships for baseball, I will be absolutely flabbergasted. That would be delightful to my ears. It is fair. But look, I don't know. I highly doubt that's going to happen, in my opinion. As far as the portal being open, you got to put your name in it. But yes, you can still sign players after the draft. The problem with that is that we all know the better players, they don't last long in the portal. So you're going to be getting depth pieces after that draft. If you're in terms of like an Ole Miss where you're looking to pick up 3 or 4 starters in the field, 2 or 3, big time arms, those guys aren't going to be available after the draft. Yes, you can pick up some depth pieces. Yes, you'll have some outliers that end up being better than expected. that maybe can be heavy contributors. But for the most part, the better players are going to be gone before the draft.
Yeah, I will say this,
Ooh.
Yancey, on the draft, the guys will be taken, but then they still have the decisions on whether they're going to go and take those contracts in Major League Baseball or return. Now, you have to have a good reading as a coach and sort of project, all right, this guy's going to go, this guy's going to go. I know for Tennessee, they didn't expect Christian Moore to suit up for the Vols. They thought he
Yeah,
was going to go pro.
yeah.
And he decided to go to college. He put an outrageous number out there. He didn't get that outrageous number. He came to college, and look what he's become, one of the best in all of college baseball. So you don't always know, and you won't
No.
know immediately right after the draft for a little while also.
Yeah,
Dudley,
I mean,
yeah.
you see that all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
look, what really kind of fell apart for Ole Miss, they were really weak defensively up the middle, and that's kind of the staple of Bianco programs. Unbelievable catchers, unbelievable shortstops, and unbelievable center fielders, and kind of their guy Cooper Pratt, the shortstop. He had already moved from the dorm to the apartment. I mean, he was a mainstay there all summer. And I mean, literally the last minute before the clock struck midnight, the deadline to make a decision, the Brewers, who the GM was the coach of Cooper's uncle back when he was in high school, gave it 1.6 million overslotted money, and off he went. Then they panic buyed, the shortstop from Arizona State, Hill, and things really, again, the top portal guys, they don't last long. So
No.
Hill became available the next day, and they got him probably at a price too much, and it just really it really he did not really work out defensively there at shortstop, and it kind of trickled down from there. But you're right, yes, they can still sign players after the draft from the portal, but there's just not going to be a whole lot of great players after that draft still available in the portal.
No. And Dudley, I want to ask you about Arkansas's case. How much is it public knowledge how much they're spending on baseball? I mean, 11.7 over 35 players, that's a third of a scholarship for every player. And there's probably a player or two, maybe there is, that gets a full scholarship, but they're doing something. But Arkansas's got a ton of talent. Where are they in most need?
Well, it's interesting Sunday starting 9 against Southeast Missouri State, which is the Arkansas season. 8 of those 9 people probably won't be back. They're either out of eligibility or they're going to, they'll be taken in the draft. Ben McLaughlin, first baseman, had a great year, so he elevated his status. Jared Spraglott, I mean, they're going to get wiped out. Their entire starting outfield is going to be going or out of eligibility. And the 3 starters, Hagan Smith, Mason Molina, and Brady Tigert, who had varying degrees of success. Obviously, Hagan was great. The other 2 were great early and then lost their ability to throw strikes, which is really big out there on the mound.
Yes. A flightless bird also struggles.
Yeah, those 3 are going to go. So, other than the top 9, other than 8 of the 9 positions at the starters and the outfield, they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Nothing to see here. Please keep driving along.
Yeah, Coach Van Horn made it clear that he wants a different type of athlete. They stood up there this year. Nate Thompson gets a lot of criticism around here, the hitting coach. Never mind that they've been great, offensively a lot of times, but weren't this year. But Coach Van Horn mentioned that he's tired of having 8 guys that go up there and slug for the fence, and he wants some athletes that guys that can run, can be a more formative team like he used to. Play some a little more small ball, which kind of took Arkansas down on Sunday. It's cool to see sacrifice bunts, steals, all that, and I think that he wants to get back into a little of that while still having guys that can knock it out of the yard. There's too many strikeouts here this year. They faded at the end. You go 40-8, and then down the stretch, you only win 4 of your last 12.
40-8. Wow. I mean, Vince, we're talking this SEC baseball, and if you look at the amount of money, football is probably 85% of the money that college has from TV and all the revenue. Then basketball, March Madness is in there, and baseball, I'm hearing is 2%, maybe 3%. But these SEC programs, they keep building on to their stadiums. I think the interest is growing there, but at the expense of what? Are we going to have half as many sports as we currently have? Most schools have 20 to 25 different sports in the SEC, men's and women's. Are we going to have half as many in 2 or 3 years? Do you think that's coming? And God help us, if we get rid of walk-ons, we're really going to be in trouble.
Sad.
Yeah, it is sad. And we talked about this a little bit last week. I do think that somebody's going to pay for it, and it's not going to be the schools out of their revenue. It's going to be the fans, and it's going to be staff slash, walk-on slash, as Yancey was talking about, the potential of guys not being, kind of a reserve roster. I don't know that they're messing with football outside of walk-ons beyond the 85. I think they'll cut sports before maybe we get to that point. But unfortunately, we probably will. I don't know that it'll be a mass type of deal, but not everybody's going to have the resources, the money to handle that. So that would be sad if it happens. But probably to some degree, I just don't know exactly how much, because this goalpost changes constantly.
It really does. It's changing every day. Yes.
If they do cut the scholarships or have a reserve field, so to speak, down to 55, I think that's when you'll see the split from the Power Four conferences.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Dudley, along that line, I think the players, you've heard this before from your mother growing up. Sometimes give people what they want, and they don't really want it. I think college athletics, especially football, if you go from 85 to 55, that's a disaster. I think you literally would have kids going, hey, man, I mean, it's killing the game. Again, I'm against anything that makes college sports more like pro sports. I'm all for things that make college sports better. But where do we decide what's better and what's not, Dudley?
Well, the one thing I'm saying is if we get down to 55, we might be back to some platoon football.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to do both offense and defense like everybody does in high school. But I had not heard that one. That is just.
I haven't either.
I hadn't either.
That's just ridiculous that they would even consider that. But then again, it's the NCAA.
Yeah, Vince. I mean, and Dudley doesn't make Yancey Portal doesn't make that stuff up. I mean, he's heard it from somebody, but I know what you're saying. I know you didn't say he did, but that would be terrible. Again, we all work with people that played college sports, men and women, D1, 2, 3. You take the pick. I mean, Matt Dean said Rhodes College thought Charlie Condon was coming there to play football and baseball. And then Georgia found out about him, and he looked at him now. He's pretty good. But, Vince, your thoughts? Dudley may have fallen into a sinkhole. I don't know where he went.
I don't see that scenario happen. Other than the walk-on thing, I don't think they're messing with it. And somebody may have that theory that it could happen, but I don't see them messing with football. I think other things will get cut before they mess with football to that degree.
Yeah, Yancey, I remember in the mid '80s when they cut down to 85, the outrage from coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I think a title not the whole thing comes into play as well. But I think if they try to, it's really kind of using a guinea pig, right? The NCAA is passing ideas. The administrators, the ADs, they kind of leak it out to the media. Some of the ideas the NCAA is talking about, they kind of gauge the reaction from the fans. how hot and how cool is it, to see what they can get away with. But I think that would be the straw that kind of breaks the camel's back there. I think the Power Four schools would officially split from the NCAA and go to their own league if they were to try to be forced to cut it down from 85 to 55 on the pro model. I'm sure the NCAA would love to take away 30 and continue to support the programs that don't bring any revenue. But look, I mean, football is making all the money for these schools. The only money that basketball is really making is what they get from the TV contract there, and then baseball out of a few select schools. I believe Ole Miss made a couple million last year. I think LSU and Arkansas were just about break even. They made a little bit. State as well. I'm not sure on Tennessee's finances, but I think as it becomes more and more popular, as we've seen the fan base grow there at Tennessee, they're heading that direction. But let's all keep it real. Football is supporting and paying for all these other programs, and to try to cut it, even cutting the walk-ons, is ridiculous in my eyes. I mean, that's just what football is all about, right?
Yeah.
I think if that happens, you'll see the official split, which is going to come eventually anyway.
Yeah.
But it'll just speed up the process when the Power Four schools break off into their own model. Because you look at schools that are the G5, especially the lower G5 schools, this revenue sharing could be a backbreaker. So I'm sure they are pushing to go from 85 to 55 and to save an extra 30 scholarship money to support, so they can have some of these other sports. But certainly the ones that can afford to have 85 are not pushing that at all.
Well, what I think will happen going forward, you're going to have corporate sponsors. So some of these non-revenue producing sports, guys, what about you might have the FedEx, Ole Miss, track and field team. That could happen. That's where I talked about private equity and venture capital. But private investors come in and say, okay, that'll be, and that NIL, that's in effect NIL, and they'll just pay everybody a set salary on that team, because we don't want to lose college athletics on any level. SEC wrestling, we need that back. I mean, we lost that in the early 80s, all because of Title IX. It certainly doesn't cost that much, but it's a great discussion, guys, and we're about out of time, but I'm glad I got you all three on here, because you're bringing up some points we hadn't heard before.
And Rob, real quick, the Tennessee had the most players at the SEC spring meetings as part of their leadership council, and they had Jemai Mashak and Tamari Key, both from the basketball teams, and Jimmy Himes, who was there covering it for the 39th consecutive year. Rob.
Guys, he's an Iron Man. I love him.
So he did a bunch of one-on-ones that were playing on the show, and he asked both of them, would you want to be an employee as student athletes? And both of them said, I see both sides, but no. You have taxes, then you're just an employee. You lose your youthful experience of college. This can be a business still for those student athletes where they can make money, but they don't have to be employees. I don't like going that route, but it's interesting that a couple players are like, no, we don't want that.
Yeah. Look, guys, let's do it again next week. This is an awesome discussion. I mean, we got into some stuff. Unreal. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, Vince Farrar, the sports animal in Knoxville. Follow all these guys, man. You want to know what's going on there? This is some groundbreaking stuff, but I can see this happening. Dudley, could you imagine the J.B. Hunt, Arkansas track and field team built to run? A trucking company sponsors them.
I mean, there's a lot of signage already similar to that. So I'll just
Okay.
Nice.
I hear that music. It's like the Tonight Show, coming up in the background. Guys, thank you all so much for sharing your time with us. This is a team effort, and we love it. God bless America, man. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, The real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.